Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Fantasy Brothers podcast. I'm Austin Thomas.
And I'm Connor Thomas.
And this week we'll be getting into all the new contract extensions, some injuries from week 1, and our next breakouts and disappointments of the week. Make sure to comment and like the video if you enjoy it, and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. And if you have any questions about this current week, we'll be glad to answer them, but if you have any questions about the coming weeks or players over the rest of their season, we'll be sure to answer that in the next Q&A sessions of the next video. So, let's get on into our new news. So, first off, we heard rumors of Allen Robinson requesting a trade. Now, these were also shut down by Allen Robinson, his mother, and his agent, but we know he's unhappy there.
No, he's happy there. He just wants more money. He's expressed himself as he wants to play there, but he wants a lot of money, and Bears might not be able to pay that, so they might have to trade him.
No, why might they not be able to pay that? Nick Foles is coming off contracts this year. Mitch Trubisky might be,
yeah.
Or are they looking to?
Well, you never know what's gonna happen. They might just not want to pay him that much money that he's asking for. So.
Maybe not, and that might lead to some mid-season trade talks, or maybe even him holding out, which would be interesting and very interesting, but I'm not so sure about that. All right, on to our next one. Kicker Austin Seibert signed with the Bengals to be their kicker. Now, that is not too big of a move, but it's a move nonetheless, and it's one that we should talk about. Do you think it's going to help them, or is it going to...
Might help them. The kicker missed game-tying field goal to go into overtime.
Who was the kicker before, by the way?
I forgot, but yeah.
All right. Well, let me go look that up real quick.
He's not. Austin's not going to start though, so that's what they said.
Just not say anybody except Randy Bullock.
Okay.
That's who it was.
It said he's still going to start, but you never know what's going to happen.
I expect Austin Seibert's going to take over that role because Austin is a cool name. All right, on to our next thing. Alvin Kamara ended all the contract extension rumors and everything around him with a new $75 million 5-year contract. Big contract for a running back. But I think it's one that he might deserve.
He deserves that, yeah.
He is a very good running back. The only questions we have are about his health. Can he stay healthy?
He's still getting paid less than Taysom Hill.
Oh, yeah.
So funny. So
less than Taysom Hill, but more than most guys. So, on to the next contract extension for a running back. Dalvin Cook signed a $63 million 5-year deal. Interesting. Not that interesting. He deserves it. He had a great year last year, and I think that he's probably going to bring more of that this year with the Vikings, with their run-heavy offense.
Yeah.
Especially on Mondays. Sorry, Kirk. And on to our next extension. Cooper Kupp signed a $48 million 3-year deal, making him $16 million a year on average. Ooh, nice one. He's going to be paired with Robert Woods for the next few years. Actually, I'm not sure how long Robert Woods is on contract for. But it's going to be a nice duo for the Rams over the next couple of years, even if they're going to be in very bad salary cap doo-doo over the next few years.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yikes.
So
can't even get anyone else in the draft because they traded all of those picks away.
We'll have to see what they do with that cap situation and see if they'll be able to maneuver this somehow. But that's questions for later years. Let's get on to our best guesses from our last week's breakouts and disappointments. So, my best guess was Mitchell Trubisky. I had said he was going to be a breakout last week. He showed off and got 242 yards with 3 touchdowns and not a single interception. I thought he showed himself pretty well. Got him a lot of good fantasy points and maybe brightened him up in the eyes of a lot of fantasy players.
Yeah, for my best, I got Calvin Ridley. He had 9 receptions for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns added along to that.
Was that the second best or third best wide receiver that week?
Second best, only behind Devontae Adams, who did.
Woo! Wow,
Yeah.
Devontae Adams. Can we talk about that? He
14
had
receptions, 150 something yards, and 2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns. I mean,
That was
wow.
insane.
That is a good performance, and I think that's one that we might be able to expect this next week, too, going against the Lions defense. You saw what Mitch did against the Lions? Imagine Aaron Rodgers going up against that team.
Bears should have lost.
DeAndre Swift with a terrible drop at the end of that game.
Yeah, that was just...
Can't believe that was heartbroken for all Lions fans and fantasy owners of DeAndre Swift alike. All right, and now let's get on to our worst guess of last week. I had said Mark Andrews was not going to do well. I am regretting saying that so much. He had 5 receptions for 58 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was second place among tight ends in PPR leagues with 23 points. That was awful on my part. I definitely am feeling bad about my guess of Mark Andrews on how bad he is going to be this season, because seeing what he did last week is making me doubt myself majorly.
Yeah, for my worst, I said Bryan Edwards was going to do good last week. Yeah, he didn't do too good. He only had 1 catch for 9 yards. Josh Jacobs took up most of the offense, and Derek Carr just didn't throw to him that much. So
I loved Josh Jacobs last week. I have him on my 16-team league, and he
went off.
He carried me to only losing by 50. I had Devontae Parker and Le'Veon Bell both get injured. Not a good time for me. Not a good time. So now let's get on into these injury situations, talking about Le'Veon and Devontae Parker. But let's talk about Devontae Parker. He is questionable for week 2 with a hamstring. He was a non-participant in Monday's practice, and he was limited in Tuesday's practice. Do we think he's going to play on Sunday?
I think there's like a 50-50 chance, to be honest. But if he doesn't play, Preston Williams is going to go up.
Yes, especially because Ryan Fitzpatrick, he loves...
Who else you?
I mean, yeah. Whew. Though, let's be honest, they're going up against a pretty good team in Buffalo.
Oh, yeah, I guess that.
So, even if he'll do better, but he's probably not going to do great, let's be honest.
Don't expect a lot from that offense.
Even if Devontae Parker is healthy, he might still have that lingering injury and be able to play. It's going to hinder him, might even reduce his snaps. And in those snaps that he does play, even if he plays the full game, he's going up against that Bills defense with Tre'Davious White. Woo-wee! Do not be looking forward to that. So, it's not a good-looking one for him. Now, also I talked about Le'Veon. Le'Veon with a hamstring injury puts him on the IR for at least until week 4. So, that is a tough scene for anyone with Le'Veon. If you have him, you can't really drop him. He's a guy that you can't drop. You got to keep, unless you're able to trade him to some other team who's willing to take him. If you can't do that, you're gonna have to want to keep him on your bench. Yeah, you're gonna have to take that for the team. He's going to be. It's not a good look. They were facing a good defense last week, but then again, you never know what to expect from Le'Veon. All right, now let's get on to our next one. Jarvis Landry had a hip injury, was a non-participant yesterday. He's questionable for Sunday. I don't think it's too big of an injury, if I remember.
I don't know that much.
But if it is, then Baker Mayfield is going to have a lot worse of a night against Cincy. And this is for the game tomorrow.
Plus,
so
Odell will go up.
Now, I'm pretty sure Landry is looking doubtful for the game on tomorrow. So that's something you're definitely going to have to watch out for that. If you are not starting him, make sure to start somebody else who's facing a bad defense. Or somebody that's really good behind him. If they were really good, I don't know why you would have benched them in the first place. Unless they're guys like Devontae Parker. Um, so make sure to keep an eye on Jarvis Landry. All right, next one's the Cowboys. Blake Jarwin, ACL, out for probably the season.
Yeah.
That is a terrible sight for such a promising tight end.
I had high hopes for him, but
I think
that was sad.
A lot of people had high hopes on Jarwin, but it looks like that's not going to happen. Also, Leighton Vander Esch, collarbone injury, was put on the IR. That's going to be a huge hit for the Cowboys defense.
Yeah.
He's a great player and great linebacker, and having that taken off is going to be like ripping the heart out of the defense. So make sure to watch that if your guys are playing the Cowboys defense, or if you have the Cowboys DST, you might want to be a little more iffy about playing them. All right, next one. We have Phillip Lindsay. Got a little bit of turf toe with a foot injury. It's looking to not be bad, but it's something that might reduce his snaps and get Melvin Gordon another few snaps.
Yep.
Even though I wouldn't recommend starting Melvin Gordon.
Yep.
Do not start Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
I repeat, do not.
Saw what happened to Saquon.
Yeah, that Pittsburgh defense. Woo!
Yeah.
Okay.
It's insane.
So let's get on to the next one, Marlon Mack. He got an Achilles tear. He is likely out for the season and was put on the IR. Terrible sight for anybody that owned Marlon Mack, but if you happen to be having Jonathan Taylor or Nyheim Hines, both of them, I mean, the benefits that they're going to be getting are amazing. It's a terrible thing to have happen to Marlon Mack.
Yeah.
But if you're owning Jonathan Taylor, you are rejoicing right now.
Yeah. Jonathan Taylor's now has the best O-line in football. And Nyheim Hines I feel like he's going to be like an Austin Eckler this year. He's catching passes from Philip Rivers. And yeah, I think he's going to do that good.
Nyheim Hines might be a sneaky good pick for somebody to replace Melvin Gordon. Let's be honest. Don't play Melvin Gordon. I'd say play Nyheim Hines over Melvin Gordon. That's my personal pick. Don't mess with Melvin Gordon. Next one. This is probably the biggest injury that we heard of this week.
Michael Thomas.
Michael Thomas with the high ankle sprain. He's out for multiple weeks is what they're expecting. This is terrible news for the Saints. Terrible news for anybody that drafted Michael Thomas high, which would have been in the first round. That's your first round pick. That's gone.
Yep.
Losing out on a first round pick, you never want to have that happen. This is a nightmare for anybody owning him. You aren't going to trade him. You're going to keep him on your bench.
Some might trade him. But
don't trade him.
Yeah, you should.
Even though he's injured,
you might be able to buy him though.
You might be able to buy him if you don't have him, you might be able to buy him for a little bit of a lower price if you're willing to tank him on your bench until he's back in the game. And once he's back in the game, though,
yeah, he's gonna go.
Whew,
he's gonna do good.
Again, got that nice offense behind you, and you're the #1 target. Next injury, James Conner, another ankle sprain, but he is questionable for Sunday. If he does play Sunday, I would not start him.
Who's he playing?
He's playing Denver.
Why would you start him?
I think the Denver defense is okay. I don't think they're great, especially after losing Von Miller. But they're okay, and if James Conner's playing, I say there's probably a 5% chance he doesn't have his snaps limited. They don't want to mess with James Conner's injury situation. They know he's injury prone. They don't want to mess with their bell cow the entire season. They want to make sure he's able to play. Now, if he is out of the game, Benny Snell might be a nice play. Benny Snell might be a sneaky nice play. Even if James Conner is playing, you might have somebody drop Benny Snell in your league. And if they do drop Benny Snell, you can pick him up as a nice backup who is probably going to get a lot more snaps this week. Similar to last week, definitely not as many as last week, but he's going to be getting snaps, and he's going to be able to create with those snaps. Now
he ruined my team.
Yeah, that was a tough scene for you.
Yep.
Losing
I had him and Saquon. Up 22. Thought I could win, but nope.
Yeah. Next one, George Kittle has a knee sprain. He's questionable for the Niners. I don't think this is going to affect him.
He's out for the week from practice, but
they're hopeful that he's going to play still Sunday. I don't think it's going to affect him. I think he's still going to be George Kittle.
It'll probably affect him a little bit, but yeah, he's still going to be top 5.
He's going to be George Kittle going up against, who is it, the Jets, right?
Yeah, the Jets.
Whew, George Kittle versus the Jets. Better watch out. And finally, just a recent development today on Wednesday, Chris Godwin. Concussion protocol, he's questionable for the game on Sunday. Now this is a tough scene for anyone that owns Godwin. If you have Mike Evans or Scotty Miller. Scotty Miller is a very good sneaky pickup off of waivers.
Tom Brady's favorite target from last week. He did really good for. In most leagues he was off in free agency, so you should be able to pick him up.
I think he's about 8% owned in ESPN leagues right now.
Yeah.
So if you do not have Scotty Miller and you are needing somebody to replace an injury or somebody that's going up against a bad defense, Tampa Bay's Scotty Miller is a very good pickup going up against the Carolina defense.
Yeah.
And especially if Chris Godwin is not able to play because of the concussion. All right, so now let's move on to our breakouts of the week.
That part.
And for my QB spot, we go with a repeat. Mitchell Trubisky. Again, the Bears are facing the Giants this week. You saw what he did last week, and he was facing up against a poor defense in the Lions. If you thought that defense was poor, just wait until you go up against this Giants team. Mitchell Trubisky, as long as Allen Robinson is playing, which is expected now that the rumors have been cleared up, as long as he's playing, he's getting more used to his guys and in-game action. He's obviously still got the running ability, which was showcased a little bit in last game. And Matt Nagy is going to be able to, I think, Matt Nagy's going to be able to make better play calls against this New York Giants defense that is not good.
You should be making better play calls. Okay, for my quarterback, I got Jimmy Garoppolo. He's playing the Jets. Now with Deebo Samuel probably back in. He has more weapons now. He played against, who was it last week? Who did the Giants?
The Cardinals.
Cardinals. Yeah, they didn't have amazing defense, but they still had good enough defense. Now with Deebo in, and yeah, I think he's gonna do good against the Jets. Especially.
Now the question is, do you have him as a top 5 QB this week?
No, probably not. I have him top 8 though.
Okay,
probably around top 8.
That's respectable. All right. So now let's get on to our wide receivers. My wide receiver 1 is Emmanuel Sanders versus the Las Vegas Raiders.
I also have him as my wide receiver 1.
Not only is Michael Thomas going to be out, he is going up against this Raiders defense, which is awful.
Yeah.
The Raiders, Damon Arnett had a perfect passer rating on him last game. Now, he is probably their best quarterback.
Yeah.
If you're listening to me here, you are ecstatic for this Saints matchup on offense. If you have the Saints on offense, you're starting them. Drew Brees, start him. Emmanuel Sanders, start him. Jared Cook, start him. Alvin Kamara, start him.
Of course you're going to start him.
All of these guys, you better be starting them unless you have somebody else that's very good. Emmanuel Sanders, especially if Michael Thomas is out, is going to be my pick for breakout of the week out wide receiver.
Yep, I also got him, so. Yep.
All right, you had Sanders too.
Yep,
I think we can both see why.
Yeah.
And I feel like this will be our best guess of next week. Let's be honest.
But you never know what can happen.
All right, and then my next guess is Marquez Valdes-Scantling, MVS, versus Detroit. Now, you saw him last week, 92 yards and a touchdown. That was a great showing, especially with Allen Lazard and Devontae Adams both also having good games. Again, they're going up against another bad defense. And Marquez Valdes-Scantling is still owned by very little. I think it's about 2%.
There's been a lot of ads, though.
There have been a lot of ads, so it might be up to about 3% now. But still, MVS is on the waiver in many leagues. And if you're looking for a guy that can fill in as a flex, Marquez Valdes-Scantling could very well go off for another great performance, just like last week.
Mm-hmm. I got N'Keal Harry versus the Seahawks. The Seahawks let up 450 passing yards last week. N'Keal Harry might be like Calvin Ridley last week, and Cam Newton likes his bigger receivers. N'Keal Harry is a bigger receiver, and especially in the end zone, if they pass, I could see N'Keal Harry going off this week.
I like N'Keal Harry too, but let's be honest, I don't think that this New England offense is as good as that Falcons offense.
Yeah, they don't have as much weapons, but still, Cam Newton I think he will pull something off.
Alright, now let's get on into our running backs. Now for my running back 1, I have Antonio Gibson versus the Arizona Cardinals. Everybody seemingly loves Gibson. I love Gibson. I have him on all of my fantasy leagues. Gibson is a great addition to any roster. He is a very good candidate to be breakout of the year. Nobody had really been drafting him until, Adrian Peterson got cut, or Darius Geis got cut. He showed up and beat out Bryce Love in camps, and you hear all these great reports, and then you see what happened last week.
But Peyton Barber.
That was not a good performance. Also, Peyton Barber seemingly took all of the goal line, all of his goal line occurrences, opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
But he got like 2 yards per carry.
Really?
Peyton Barber had like 2-point-something yards per carry. He was not good that game. Antonio Gibson had a good, 4 or 5 yards per carry. That's pretty respectable. I think they're going to give more opportunities to Antonio Gibson this week. They're also facing a much worse defense in Arizona versus who they were going up against the Colts.
Jackson? No, they were going against Eagles.
They were going against the Eagles. The Eagles had a pretty good defense, but let's be honest here. I think the Arizona defense is going to do worse, especially against the run game, which they showed last week going up against the Niners, letting Raheem Mostert cook. And I think Antonio Gibson has very good potential to break out this week.
Yep. For my running back 1, I got Nyheim Hines. As I said, I think he's going to be an Austin Eckler, basically. Philip Rivers likes checking down to his running backs. Now with Marlon Mack sadly injured, he has more opportunities to get more touches and get a ton of more yards.
All right, my running back 2, Adrian Peterson versus Green Bay. That Green Bay run defense has not gotten much better, as you might have seen. They let up like 300 yards to Raheem Mostert in the NFC Championship game last year. And then week 1, they faced off, and against the Lions, were they facing? No, they weren't facing, that was the Bears. Green Bay was facing the Minnesota defense, and they had Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook had a nice game. They were able to run on them. Now, Green Bay still won, but that doesn't mean that they were a good run defense.
Yeah.
And Adrian Peterson, you saw him getting as many yards as he did last week, as many touches as he did. He had 17 carries. I don't think that's going to last throughout the season. DeAndre Swift did not have a good first game. I think they're...
Oh, never mind. No, he didn't.
He had a couple drops. I think he fumbled once. Or no.
I don't think he did.
No, never mind. But he didn't have a great game. Yeah. He did get okay fantasy points, about 8, but he didn't have a great game.
Most of all of that came from the 1 touchdown he scored.
Mm-hmm. So
it's terrible.
I don't think they're going to go with DeAndre Swift yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're still going to get him the ball a little bit. Also, Kerryon Johnson, he was like a non-factor last game. So that shows that they still like Adrian Peterson. He showed that he's still got what it takes. Going up against this Green Bay defense, I think Adrian Peterson's going to cook again.
Okay, I got Joshua Kelly versus the Chiefs. Austin Eckler, he didn't do as good as people expected. Joshua Kelly took most of the goal line touches from Eckler. Joshua Kelly's gonna get more of the valuable touches, especially at the goal line, and he's gonna have more early down compared to Eckler, who's mainly a passing threat, but Eckler didn't do that well at passing. But Joshua Kelly, I think, will do a lot. Will do amazing. Even though they're playing the Chiefs defense, the Chiefs defense isn't that good, but they're on and off. So, but I think this is going to be an off day for the Chiefs defense.
Psst, I like the Chiefs defense a lot more than most people.
Maybe because you're a Chiefs fan.
Alright, let's get on to our tight end breakouts of the week. This one was really tough for me. I had a tough decision on this, but I ended up going Austin Hooper versus the Cincinnati Bengals. One, because Jarvis' injury with his minor injury might reduce his snaps a little bit, might give Hooper some more targets, but also mainly because they're going up against the Cincinnati Bengals defense.
Njoku.
And David Njoku is on the IR. That's what I had meant to say also. David Njoku on the IR, he had a pretty good first game, especially for not being as utilized as he could be.
Yeah.
He had a pretty good game, but now that he's injured, Hooper is going to be getting all that tight end time, and I think he's going to be probably the second favorite target of Baker in that game.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be very nice for him, and especially against that Cincinnati defense. So I'm going with Hooper.
Okay, I got Jonnu Smith versus the Jaguars. It's the Jaguars. Their defense isn't that good. They somehow beat the Colts, but I think that was like a fluke, sort of. Jonnu Smith had a touchdown, and he had a couple receptions and a big yardage play. He had some yards. But I think he will do a lot better this game. Yeah.
All right. I see where you're coming from. All right, now let's go into our disappointment players. Wah, wah, wow. So, my QB is Gardner Minshew. He did win last week, but he's going up against the Tennessee Titans. If you saw that Broncos game, they took off so much time. Their defense was able to stuff Drew Lock in the Broncos offense. It was not a good night for them. I think it was a great night for the Tennessee Titans defense, and I think they're going to repeat that, especially against this Jacksonville Jaguars offense that did pretty well last week. They did pretty good against the Colts, who have an okay defense. That Jaguars offense looked like it might be good. You might have added Gardner Minshew, but I would say avoid him for this week.
Mm-hmm. I got Deshaun Watson this week. He's playing against the Ravens. The Ravens had an insane defense last week versus the Browns. They shut down Odell. They basically shut him down. And their pass rush looked amazing. And last year, when the Texans played the Ravens, Deshaun Watson only had 169 yards and an interception with no touchdown passes. This year, they got rid of Hopkins, and then the Ravens added Calais Campbell to the pass rush, and their Texans O-line didn't look that good last game. So I think Deshaun Watson's not going to have that good of a game this year.
No, it is Deshaun Watson, so we can't entirely count him out.
Yeah.
So let's be real. But I can see him being a bust. So let's go into our wide receiver disappointments. My wide receiver disappointment was Henry Ruggs. Coming off a very minor injury, he's probably going to be back. Actually, we already know he's going to be back. He's playing the Saints defense. There are no other receivers on the Las Vegas offense besides Hunter Renfrow and Bryan Edwards, who both showed that they could not do well.
Yep.
Now, Henry Ruggs is going to be the main focus of that Saints defense that is very good, and they're going to shut him down. That's their whole goal. Shut down Henry Ruggs, you win the game. That's the Saints' game plan.
You sort of need to shut down Josh Jacobs also.
Actually, yeah, that's probably the main game plan, but still, he's more of a running thing. That's what the secondary's goal is.
Yeah.
The secondary's goal is to stop Henry Ruggs. The other goal of the defense, stop Josh Jacobs.
Yep.
You're good if you do that.
I got Tyler Lockett versus the Patriots. Patriots defense looked awesome last week. They got 3 interceptions. Now they are going against the Seahawks, who also did amazing last week. But Tyler Lockett is going to be facing against Stephon Gilmore, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. And I don't think Tyler Lockett's going to do that good this week.
See, I really thought about either putting him or DK Metcalf, but then I got to thinking, if the other starts doing well, which is going to happen with Russell Wilson at the QB, Stephon Gilmore is probably going to switch whenever the other starts getting hot to try and slow them down. And then the other is going to get better. So I didn't really want to put either of them on there, but I did think about it.
That is a good point, but I still don't think Tyler Lockett's going to do that good.
All right, now let's go on to the running backs. For me, I had Melvin Gordon III. I already talked about him.
We both had him.
Versus Pittsburgh. This is not a good matchup at all. Goodbye. Don't say hello to Melvin Gordon this week. Keep him stuffed down on your bench.
You saw what the Steelers did to Saquon Barkley. 15 rushes for 6 yards.
Drew Lock is going to throw the ball this week. He is not going to be giving it too often to Melvin Gordon after he gets stopped for -5 yards on 7 carries.
Yeah.
So let's go on to the tight end of the disappointment tight end is Chris Herndon versus San Francisco for me. He did not have a great week 1 showing.
It's solid.
People thought that, well, it wasn't great. It was like 37 yards.
He was 5 receptions or something like that.
Yeah, it was 5 receptions, 37 yards.
But
it wasn't great.
Yeah.
And going against the San Fran defense, they didn't show off great last week, so you might be like, hey, well, I could probably do that. It's still San Francisco. Just because they didn't do well the first week, they didn't do awful. And they're going against the Jets, who have no O-line. I just stay away from Chris Herndon this week for me.
Yeah. I got Noah Fant versus Steelers. They are going to throw the ball a lot, but I think Noah Fant is going to get shut down by that defense. You saw what they did to Evan Ingram, who did absolutely terrible last week. He's coming off Noah Fant's coming off a big game. People are going to look to be starting him, but you should not start him. Especially, it's the Steelers defense. So,
come to think of it, I had Henry Ruggs the first, Gardner Minshew the second, Melvin Gordon the third, and Chris Herndon the fourth as my busts of the week. So, kind of funny. All right, now let's get on to our weekly matchups. Starting with our Thursday night football, Cincinnati versus Cleveland. Who you got?
I got Cleveland. Baker. I think Baker's going to do a lot better than last week. Cincinnati's defense isn't as good as Baltimore's. Odell's going to do better.
The All-Ohio matchup, cross-state rivalry. Number 1 overall pick versus number 1 overall pick. I have Cleveland also. Okay. You got that Cleveland team. They did disappoint week 1. I don't think they're going to disappoint again. Cincinnati team, Joe Burrow might do well. He probably will. He's got some good receivers. That doesn't mean I think they're going to win, though. Next game, Sunday, we have Detroit versus the Green Bay Packers. I have the Green Bay Packers winning this one. I had Green Bay losing last week, but they won against Minnesota. This one, it's Detroit, who lost to Chicago, who had many errors, weren't able to capitalize on Mitch Trubisky and his blah blah blahs. It's going to be a Green Bay game. You saw how deadly that offense was last game. It's going to be good again.
Yeah, I also got Green Bay winning this. Yeah, the Lions last year did really good against Green Bay. They led most of the game last year. But I feel like this year the Packers offense is just going to be too good to stop, and Detroit's not going to be able to contain them.
Come to think of it also, that Packers defense in the first half was pretty good.
Jair
Alexander had himself a very good game. And there were a couple sacks too, so.
Yep.
Now let's get on into the next game, the New York Giants versus the Chicago Bears. I have the Chicago Bears and their defense. Mitch Trubisky is going to have another good game, and they're going to win this game.
Yeah, I got the Giants winning this game. They looked good in the first half. Well, they looked sort of good until Danny Dimes threw that one pick at the goal line, and then it all just went downhill from there. I think they're going to do that well against Bears. I don't think the Bears defense is going to... Well, I think the Bears defense is going to be good, but it's not going to be as good as Pittsburgh. Yeah, definitely not going to be as good as Pittsburgh.
Almost no defense is going to be as good as Pittsburgh, but I don't think the Giants have a defense.
They don't.
So,
don't think they do.
they're missing. Reward if you can find them. Anybody on the New York Giants defense. Now let's go on to our next matchup, the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Los Angeles Chargers. This one is a no-brainer for me. Even though the Chargers, they might pull something out, they're not going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. It's the Chiefs. You saw they hardly had to try at all last week. They're going up against this Chargers offense and defense, which did not look great last week.
Defense looked good.
Wait, what, is Mahomes really going to fail?
Maybe.
Unless he got injured again, I don't see him failing.
They're playing against a really good secondary, but I still got the Chiefs. I think their offense is going to be too explosive, especially since Derwin James got injured at the beginning of the season and is probably going to be out for the season. Yeah, I think the Chiefs' offense is just going to do awesome, like always.
All right, next matchup, we have the Atlanta Falcons versus the Dallas Cowboys. I have the Dallas Cowboys winning this one. Dallas they're a good team. You got to give it to them. They're a good team. Atlanta is too. They had a pretty good showing last week against the Seahawks. But Dallas has too many offensive weapons. I say they have more weapons than the Falcons do. Mm-hmm. Their defenses are very similar, but I think Dallas is going to take this one. Take the game.
Yeah, I also got Dallas. Both their offenses are really good, but I think the Falcons' defense is just a lot worse than Dallas's. They let up 38 points last week compared to the Dallas only letting up 21, something like that. But yeah, or 20 I think it was. Yeah, it was 20. But I just don't think I don't think the Falcons defense is going to be able to stop Dak, Zeke, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. So
I'm going to be real here. I don't think the Falcons defense is that bad. They just let Russell Wilson cook. That was on Pete Carroll for letting Wilson cook, and that's the reason they won the game. Yeah. So let's go on to the next matchup. Minnesota Vikings versus the Indianapolis Colts. Indianapolis, terrible performance versus probably the worst team in the league. The Jacksonville Jaguars. What is going on?
How do they
I know Marlon Mack got injured, but how do you lose that? Mm-hmm. How do you lose that? So I'm going Minnesota here. Minnesota, they weren't bad against the Packers. They had some pretty good offense. They had a lot of defensive laps. Maybe that was just Rodgers being good.
That was.
Good job. But I'm going to go Minnesota. They're going to come back and turn their season on 1-1.
Mm-hmm. I also got Minnesota. I think they're going to do good. That offense looked good last week, but it was just their defense that was terrible.
All right, now let's get on into the next matchup: Buffalo Bills versus the Miami Dolphins. Again, I've got the Miami Dolphins losing. Bills winning this one. It's not because I think the Miami Dolphins are bad. Let's get that out here. I don't think the Miami Dolphins are bad. I think they're an okay team. They're starting off against this Buffalo Bills team whose defense is stellar and whose offense is not bad either, especially after that addition of Stephon Diggs. And here comes Zach Moss also coming out of the bushes, and this Buffalo team is looking very close to unstoppable in the AFC East.
Mm-hmm. I got Buffalo barely. I feel like Miami's defense, their passing defense will be really good this week against Josh Allen, but I think the Buffalo rushing game will be a lot better than Miami will, and plus Buffalo's defense is just insane, and Ryan Fitzpatrick threw 3 picks last week, and I feel like Buffalo's secondary is about the same as Patriots, so I think Buffalo's going to win.
If you wanted to see the Fitzmagic show, go back to last year.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on into the next matchup, San Francisco versus the New York Jets. There's no other way around this besides the San Francisco 49ers.
Yep.
All right, let's get straight into the next matchup. The LA Rams versus the Philadelphia Eagles. This one was probably my matchup of the week. Very tough for both teams, but I'm going to end up with the Rams coming out of this dogfight with the win. I think the Rams, again, it's very close, but I think that Philadelphia battered line, even if they get Lane Johnson back, even if they get Miles Sanders back, it's not quite as ready as the LA Rams. I don't think they're going to be able to stop Aaron Donald and that rush attack. I don't know if this is just me. I heard a report that they might go one defensive lineman in Aaron Donald, and everybody else is going to be a defensive back. I don't know where I don't remember where I heard that, but I thought that was so funny, and I still think that if they had 3 guys on that Philadelphia O-line, Aaron Donald might be able to get through them.
No. Especially Jason Kelce might be able.
Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson, them 2.
Mm-hmm.
Who else do they got again?
They
Brandon Brooks is injured.
They signed someone in the offseason.
I don't remember who it is, but Aaron Donald could get past a double team, maybe even a triple team. I am going to be honest. If they had that many DBs, that would be very interesting to see. I would love to watch that. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
But it would be kind of fun to see. But anyway, I think Aaron Donald is going to rip through that Philadelphia O-line. Even if they're kind of good, they're going to get ripped through. So they have... Yeah, they have Jason Peters, but
Yeah. I also have the Rams. I think they're going to be good. Even Miles Sanders might be limited. I don't think they want to rush Miles Sanders because he's probably going to be the franchise back for a long time. I don't think they want to rush him back in and risk him getting injured again. Plus, the Rams defense with Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, I feel like that's going to be a problem for the Eagles. Especially since the Eagles lost to a team with no name.
All right. I heard reports that might be the lasting name in Washington. The Washington football team. Dan Snyder is something else. Let's go on to the next one. Denver Broncos versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Almost got that mixed up with the Nuggets, who had a very good 3-1 comeback against the Clippers.
Yep.
But let's get into this football game. Denver Broncos versus Pittsburgh Steelers. I got the Steelers winning it. That defense is great. The Deontay Johnson and Juju showed that they will be the main targets on that Steelers offense.
Maybe Chase Claypool. Also.
Chase Claypool was not bad.
Amazing catch.
And I think they're going to be able to get through that Denver defense. I think Drew Lock last week, I think he failed mainly because that Titans defense, their offense took up so much clock, and also because that defense was just able to stop them. And I'm gonna go with that Steelers
Yeah.
defense again, similar to how the Tennessee Titans defense was able to beat the Broncos.
I also got the Steelers defense. The Steelers. Their defense is just gonna obliterate Denver. That's just the way to put it.
The Steelers defense alone would beat Denver.
Yeah.
All right, now on to our next matchup: Carolina versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going Buccaneers. You could make the case. Sorry. I'm kind of thirsty because I've been talking for a while. But anyways, Carolina versus the Buccaneers. Going Buccaneers. You could make the case that the Buccaneers were not good last week. They weren't. Then again, they were facing the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
It was Brady's first performance. I don't think Brady's a great quarterback, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to do good in that Tampa Bay offense. And Carolina showed that they had no defense, and their offense is just
The offense is good. I feel like, okay, I also have Tampa Bay. I feel like it will be a blowout. Well, maybe not a blowout. I feel like Tampa Bay's offense is going to do solid since Carolina's defense is terrible, especially since that they let the Raiders score a lot of points. Yeah, and especially now Tom Brady gets to throw to Mike Evans, who's probably fully healthy now. He was healthy last week, but I think they limited him a bit. Right?
Godwin felt like switching with Mike Evans.
Yeah. Plus, the Bucs defense is just gonna be able to contain McCaffrey.
All right, and now on to our next matchup: the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans showed that they could beat the Broncos last week with a very slow-moving offense and a good defense. I think that's going to be a very similar thing to this week, except for the fact that it's going to probably be even slower because they're literally just going to run the ball next week. Even though Ryan Tannehill threw the ball a lot, I don't think there were many large, long passes, if I remember correctly.
I don't think so.
And that's why the clock kept going and going and going and going and going. And so it's not going to be nearly 47 throws or whatever he threw last game. It's going to be more like 20, 25.
That's still a lot.
From Tannehill. Yeah, but they're going to be running the ball a heck of a lot more. And so, yeah, it's going to be a very boring game to watch. Just telling you that.
I also got Tennessee. All they have to do is go with Derrick Henry. He's just going to run through that Jags defense. That's basically the whole game.
Yeah.
That's going to be the whole game.
All right, next one, we've got the Washington football team versus the Arizona Cardinals. I've got the Cardinals winning this one. The Washington defense, wow, last week they did good.
They did.
But this is Kyler Murray, this is DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, this is, what's his face? Kenyon Drake. I'm going with Arizona Cardinals here. Washington offense was not great last week. I'm going to go with the similar line, even though they're facing a little bit of a worse defense. I'm going to go Arizona here.
Yeah, I also got Arizona. They're playing against a mobile quarterback this time who's going to be able, they have a mobile quarterback. Carson Wentz wasn't that mobile. He stood in the pocket. Now Kyler Murray's able to run out of the pocket and make something with that. I don't think Washington's defense is going to do as good as they did last year, especially now they have to pay attention to 3 different good wide receivers compared to Jalen Reagor and Deshaun Jackson. I think Arizona is just going to destroy them.
All right, next game. This one is another heavyweight offensive matchup. Houston Texans versus Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens have a defense. Texans do not. Both of them have a good offense. But the Ravens have a good defense. So I'm going Ravens.
Yeah, I got the Ravens also. They shut down the Browns, who I thought was going to do put up at least a little bit of a fight, but not really. Yeah, their defense is just going to be able to stop Houston.
All right, next one, we've got the New England Patriots versus the Seattle Seahawks. This is another one that I think is going to be a close matchup. But I'm going with Seattle here. I know Cam Newton is pretty good, but I think Seattle made some nice additions over the offseason, especially with Jamal Adams. And if they let Russell Wilson cook again, you never know what could happen.
I got New England, actually. Their defense, I feel like, will be able to stop Russell Wilson's passing. I think the Seahawks' run game will be good, but I don't think their passing game is going to be that good, and I don't think you can just run the ball unless you're the Titans, but they're not the Titans. I think they're just going to... And New England's offense looked amazing last week with Cam Newton, and now Seattle doesn't have that good of a secondary either. So I feel like Cam Newton's going to be able to rush and throw.
Now, for the final game of the week, we have the New Orleans Saints versus Las Vegas Raiders on Monday Night Football. And this one was an easy pick for me. I'm going with the Saints, who, similar to how the Baltimore versus Houston game goes, the Saints have a great offense and a great defense. The Raiders have a good offense and no defense.
Yeah.
So I think this is easy Saints pick for me. Is it the same for you?
Yeah, I got Saints. It's a pretty obvious choice for me.
All right. So that about wraps things up for this episode.
Yep.
Now, usually we'd be doing a Q&A session here. It is great to have you guys comment below. Thank you for watching to this point in the video. If you watched this far, we applaud you for taking your time out of your day to listening to us talk about fantasy football. And if you would want to drop a like, that would be greatly appreciated. Make sure to comment if you have any questions you want answered about Week 3, about the entire season. And if you have a question about Week 2 that you want us to answer, we'd be happy to answer that in the comment section below. So you won't even have to wait until next week when we talk about it in our Q&A section. Or if there's another kind of section that you want us to talk about in coming weeks, some different challenges that you want us to do, you know. We'd be happy to hear your feedback. So make sure to comment, like, subscribe, and we will be getting the next episode out of Week 3 to you next Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great night. Peace.
Yeah.